Now, hearing into the case of immigration-related offences brought against Yoruba activist Sunday Adeyemo, also known as Sunday Igboho, resumed yesterday in Cotonou, Benin Republic. Igboho supporters and journalists were barred from witnessing the hearing. Some Beninois monarchs who came to court to support Igboho were also barred from the courtroom. Although many persons were brought to court in minibuses, none of the vehicles had Igboho in them. Reports have it that Igboho had been brought to court earlier than anyone else to avoid the possibility of drama or any clash. The charges against the Yoruba Nation activist border on arms smuggling, inciting violence, and calling for a secession of the Yorubas from the Nigerian state. Now, joining us from Cotonou is Arise correspondent Tokunbo Oyetunji. Now, Tokunbo, you were there yesterday and all through proceedings. Paint a picture for us about what happened yesterday in court, because we hear that Sunday Igboho was brought in earlier than anticipated.
Yeah, you're correct, Aaron. Thank you very much for joining us here at Cotonou. Sunday Igboho, like you said, was brought into court much earlier than anticipated by his supporters and even journalists who all came out very early here to observe and witness the proceedings. But somehow the authorities had a different idea. I think to avoid any kind of drama that may erupt because of the supporters citing their man, they decided to bring him in much earlier than anticipated, and he was kept in one of the offices, I think the office of the prosecutor, for the better part of the day. Let's tell you that actual proceedings really did not start until about 5 p.m. yesterday, after everybody had been waiting, expecting that the session would start at about 10 a.m., the usual time that court sessions will always start around here. So when eventually it started, like you said, journalists, especially cameramen, people with recording devices were sent out of the court premises, and even the supporters of Mr. Igboho were equally sent away from the premises, leaving some of us reporters alone, around the court premises. Not that we're allowed to move close to the courtroom or the prosecution office where the sessions were being conducted, but at least we were within the vicinity, within the premises of the court. So trying to piece information together, gather information on what exactly was going on. At about I think 7 p.m. or so, a team of police operatives in about 2 vans arrived, armed policemen, and they came in telling everybody, including a few of the Igboho, supporters of Igboho, and us journalists sitting around, to actually move away from the court premises and move, to a location, just move away from there. And we had to oblige, because they said that was the instruction from the authority. So we can say that the proceedings, the session yesterday was conducted behind closed doors until about midnight, when we realized that the lawyers and the police vans were all moving out, and we suspected that Mr. Igboho was in one of the vehicles that we drove out at about 11:35 thereabout.
Okay, Tokunbo.
That.
Sorry to interrupt, but you speak of twice. You spoke of Igboho supporters being sent away and events taking place behind closed doors. But can you enlighten us as to what happened outside of the courtroom? And with regards to the Igboho supporters, how have they conducted themselves? Is there cause for the police to have to be supervising them in this way? Have they? We heard that you had a run-in with some of his supporters yesterday. Tell us about it.
Yes, definitely. Before yesterday, the first session that was held on Thursday, it was some kind of carnival, like for the supporters gathered. That majority of them were out there. Even some of them were were protesting, saying that demanding that their man should be released to them because, according to them, he had not committed any crime. So, and we listened to one of the lawyers of Mr. Igboho, the person of Ibrahim Salami, I think the lead counsel, really, saying that the activities of the supporters on that day of a court hearing was actually the authorities were very uncomfortable with such boisterous activities, around the court, and he was appealing to them to actually try and stay back from the court, allowing the people, the legal experts who know what to do, to actually wage the battle against the authorities to be able to secure the release of their man. So when we got to the court very early in the morning, after the initial report that we gave in the morning about the expectations and all that, we saw some of the supporters actually approach us to say they had decided that they were not going to, there was not going to be filming, there was not going to be photo taking of snapping of photos and all that. All they were waiting was for the amount to be released, and they can now go into town and start celebrating. So I guess somehow they tried to, control themselves too, but the police were actually watching over them to see if not in that very serious manner, but you could tell that there were security men all across the place to try and put any situation that might arise under control. So when they were chased out of that, the court premises, majority of them were actually hanging around, not too far away, right in front of the entrance into the premises and all that. So until those policemen now came, the armed policemen came and chased them away from the entrance of that court to the premises and to a location nearby, just across the street. There was still no issue really. So when they came and told journalists to go, we all just were at the same spot, waiting to see when the session was going to be completed. Everything was good. Everything seemed normal until, except for some occasional encounter with people who may not know that there was a standing instruction not for anybody not to take record anything or snap. At about midnight, when the session was completed, that everybody had driven out of the court premises, and even the two police vans, blocking, with some police operatives blocking the main junction into the court, had left the place, and we were trying to actually reach out to the lawyers to find out what exactly transpired, to tell us the exact thing that transpired in the court, so that we can to help our reporter. And they started at us, and they started pouncing on myself and the cameraman. In the process of trying to escape from them, they were struggling to get from him, though the driver was smart enough to drive away from that scene. And that was how we escaped the scene. But the whereabouts of the camera was still trying to look for it and seek it out as I speak to you.
All right, Tokunbo, what's next, Ryan? What's the next order of action, and what should we expect? When is the next day in court? Very briefly.
That question really takes us to what exactly transpired at the court yesterday. Like I reported yesterday night, talking to our colleagues, India and Ngozi, what actually transpired yesterday was an appearance of Mr. Igboho before the prosecutor to determine whether or not he had a case against the state to answer. So eventually, what we're told by the lawyer, Mr. Salami, is that the issues that came up eventually were that now the court ruled that Mr. Igboho, who he continued to be in the custody of the Benin authorities, but he will be taken away from the police detention where he is to maybe prison custody, not police detention anymore. And why that is because they're trying to determine whether he has a case or cases to answer, against the Benin authorities because, according to them, they found out that he came into their country through the back door, and doing that to them constitutes some offense. And they are going to be investigating who aided him, who are the accomplices in this situation. And at the same, so they will, while that investigation is pending, they will keep him in custody. And at the same time, one of the allegations raised by the Nigerian authorities that made them arrest him was actually the fact that he was constituting was disturbing public peace. That they are going to determine, the investigating judge is going to determine whether Mr. Igboho had the same mindset when he came into Benin Republic to constitute some kind to disturb the public peace in here in Benin Republic. So those are the two issues they will be investigating and determine whether or not Mr. Igboho will have to face the court, have to face the judge to answer to those issues. So pending the time when the investigation on these two issues will be concluded, will be kept in that custody. And nobody can tell, well, according to the lawyer, nobody can tell when that will be, when the investigation will be concluded.
Thank you so much.
Next day.
Tokunbo Oyetunji, Arise special correspondent there in Cotonou. Thank you for keeping us up to date, and do stay safe.